Hello, welcome to the next vlog. So this is the vlog where I talk about my experience with the language test. So this is beforehand, this is a couple days before, and I'm a little bit nervous because I've been, I finally got this email. So when I booked the class, well, I guess it's not a class, it's a test. When I booked the test online, it didn't have a time. It came with a date, and I was like, okay, that sounds like an okay date. And yeah, so I booked it and I paid for it. And then I emailed them and I said, there's no time, like what time is the test? They said, oh yeah, you'll get an email about a week before the test to let you know what time your test is. Now, I did not know that it was a 4-part test. So, for those of you taking the Goethe Certifikat B1, the Goethe Certificate B1, it's a 4-part test. You have reading, hearing, writing, and speaking. Now, that in and of itself is okay. The problem that I have at the moment is that it starts at 8:30 in the morning. I was not really counting on that. I figured, like most language classes, language tests, they don't open even until like 9 or 10 in the morning. Surprise! So 8:30 is my first test. And that one is, oh, what is that? An hour and 5 minutes. Why an hour 5? I don't know. That's the reading test. And then I have a 20-minute break. And then I have the listening test, which is, if I can calculate that, 40 minutes. Yeah. And then I have another 20-minute break. Then I have the writing portion. And that is 1 hour, exactly. And then I have the speaking or oral part, and that is 30 minutes. After a very long break, actually, between writing and speaking, that is just under 2 hours. Which means I'm not going to be finished until 2:15 in the afternoon. 2:15. Great. I'm so excited. No, I'm not. I'm annoyed because I didn't expect this to be an all-day thing. I thought this was going to be an hour or two, maybe 3 hours at most. I wasn't planning on 6 hours. I'm going to be gone for 6 hours just taking a test, let alone the time it takes to get there and come back. I am really glad I took the day off work because I wasn't actually anticipating this. I just figured I'd make it less stressful on myself. Anyways, I really wish there was more like communication about the actual format of the test, about how much time it would take. Like there was nothing online. It just says book your test now. So Goethe Institute, get your act together. I know I said this last time about the German government, but geez, like what annoys me about it is that school hasn't started yet when I take this test. And I had contacted a place that would take care of the kids, but they open at 10 in the morning. It's not even going to work. And so I was just straight up lucky that the children's father happens to have the day off work. Otherwise, I would have had to beg my neighbor to take them until so she could take them to the care that I had lined up. Anyway, this really wasn't made for working parents. I'm not even kidding. Anyways, I am so glad that this is basically the last step, the last hoop I have to jump through. I just submit, once I get this information and I get the certificate back, I just submit it to the, people taking care of my paperwork, and then they will contact me when they're ready, and I'll have a lot of wait time. But this is like my last step in a while. But I'm still annoyed. Now, what I suspect is that I'm not going to be able to vlog while I'm there. I don't really vlog in public anyway, unless I'm in a place where I feel very comfortable doing it. It's not going to happen. So I'm thinking I'm going to um, like discuss after the fact and like catch you up on everything. Um, I'm not one of those weird people who like holds my camera, out here while I'm walking down the street. I don't do that. So, anyways, I'm a little bit nervous about the test. Not that I don't think my German level is good enough. I think it's more than adequate, but I'm just not sure what to expect. It's one of those where this is not what I was expecting already. And I feel very surprised by it and kind of like blindsided. You know what I mean? Like it just came out of left field of this really weird thing. Anyways, since this is just the introduction, I'll stop there, but I will catch you up on how the test actually was afterwards. And hopefully won't get too ranty about it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Anyways, talk to you soon. All right, I wasn't actually planning on vlogging this part, but I figured I have a little bit of time, so I might as well. Low light, so I hope that you can at least see what I'm doing. I'm in the parking garage. I just arrived at where I'm going, and I just wanted to let you know how the morning went, because I was actually concerned about it. Since the test starts at 8:30, I figured I would try and leave as early as possible. So I left the house at, I think it was 6:40. My kids were awesome. I woke them up at 6:30. They just got dressed and we left. Like that was thank you, kids. That was amazing. So other than that, I drove down to my ex-husband's apartment, and I brought the kids there, and I had planned on being there between 7 and 7:30, but I got there just before 7. It was like 6:55. I think I woke him up. Sorry, but we were a little anxious to get going. I was anyway, and I just wanted to make sure I had enough time. That meant that I had, for a drive that takes me about an hour, I had about an hour and a half, which is exactly what I wanted. And so I left there and I drove down and everything went well, and it is now 5 to 8. So I have time to take a deep breath, maybe get something for breakfast, and then off I go to my test. So yeah, it worked out. I'm so glad. I'm shocked that it worked, but I'm really happy about it. So anyway, off we go. All right, so I'm finally ready to wrap up like the saga of the language test. As I mentioned before, very briefly, is that I did get there fine in the morning. I got to the place at around 8, and my test was started at 8:30, so I was there in plenty of time. So that part was very positive, but I wanted to let you know what the test is like. I'm not going to give you any answers or anything. I couldn't do that anyway, because your test is probably slightly different than mine. But I wanted to let you know what the test is like for those who want to take it themselves. So you go in, and they are very, very picky about like IDs, and they check your ID and your picture and everything. They're very strict about that. Don't try to get past that. I don't think you're going to do it. Anyway, then you go into like a waiting room area, and in the waiting room there's a whole bunch of other people who are also taking the test at the same time. The way that mine was set up is that what they do is they have 3 tests that are all on the computer: the reading, writing, and listening test. They're not in that order. I think it's reading, hearing, writing. And then they have those 3 tests on the computer, and so they have like a block of those tests, and everybody taking those tests are like taking them at the same time. And then after that, they have a block of time where you will be taking your speaking test. So the oral part is like afterwards. And that's why it was set up the way it was, with the long break in between the third and the fourth test. The other option is that they can reverse those. They can do the oral part first. So they have some people doing oral and that doing, wow, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? Some people doing the oral exam. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Anyway, then they have like the block afterwards starting at 1. So either at 8:30 or at 1 is when your main block starts. So mine started at 8:30, and it was more difficult for me because of that. I would have preferred starting at 1, but they didn't know that, obviously. So they just scheduled me the way, with everybody else. And there were probably 30 people taking the test at the same time. So there were 15 in the first group and 15 in the second. Easy, at least, if not 20. So, anyway, so because of so many people and all of the like scheduling issues, that is what made it set up the way it is. So also the oral exam is done in pairs. So there are 2 people that go in, which also sounds bad. Okay, and there are 2 people that go in at the same time, and they work as partners in and one part of it, and then the other part is more individual. Anyway, so backing up, the first test was the reading test. So what you do is, with the main part of the test being on the computer, so you go into this room, you choose a seat, it doesn't matter where you sit, at a computer, and you are requested to bring your cell phone and your ID card. And everything else is set on a table in the corner of the room. So you go in and you sit down, and they instruct you to turn off your phone, not to put it on silent, but to turn it off. And then they give you an envelope where you have to put your turned off phone inside the envelope and seal it. And the proctor said that if your phone goes off or vibrates at all during the exam, you are automatically disqualified, which is why they instruct everyone to turn off their phones. Okay, whatever. So I do that. I understand that during the exam, yeah? I put that on the edge of the table so where it can be seen, and also my ID card. So, and during the test, the proctor also comes around and checks your ID again. You can't get away with having somebody take a test for you. It's never going to happen. So take your own tests, people. Anyways, moving on. So I think that may be why they're certified, because they're so strict about taking tests. Anyways, you did the reading portion, and you have like an hour for that. And I only took about 30 minutes. I don't even think I took that much, 20 maybe, to be finished. So I was finished very early, and I got up and I went to grab my phone so I could go into the waiting room and wait. And they said, no, I'm sorry, you have to leave your phone there. So not only did my next test not start for another hour, but I didn't have anything to do. So you go out into the waiting area and you're like, so where are you from? And the only thing you have to do is talk to the other people. Like, there's nothing else to do. It's so boring. I personally don't feel like that is a very user-friendly system. Let's put it that way. Maybe there's a reason why they do that, but I did not enjoy that. Anyways, so then the writing and the hearing test are the same. And then you have to wait for your oral exam, the speech part. And so the oral exam was completely different. So what they did is they put you in a room with your partner and like a person watching you, I guess. And they give you paper with a couple of topics on it. And they like asked you to speak on it. Now, I know that not all the topics are the same for each group. So I don't know if I want to like share what it was that I had. So I don't really feel comfortable with that. So, but what I would do is tell you that there are 2 topics that you have, and you have to speak for 3 minutes on each one of them. The first one is a group topic with your partner. So you can't prepare together, but you can like write down, well, during the preparation time is like 15 minutes of preparation time where you're just looking at this paper. They give you a pen, and you can make some notes and get some ideas down on paper, and then you go into the next room, which is the testing room, where you and your partner are sitting facing each other, and the 2 proctors are next to each other, and I'm guessing one is evaluating each person. And so then during the partner part, then you sit down and you plan something together. For example, plan a party or plan an event or something like that, where you throw ideas at each other, and what do you think, and where should we go, and things like that. And I think that was just to show how you interact with each other and whether or not you understand each other when the other person speaks. And then they have each individual person present something. So they gave me a topic where I spoke on it for 3 minutes, and then at the end, you each have to ask a question of the other person. So you have to listen to the other person, concentrate, and then ask a thoughtful question about the topic. But that is part of the test. So I think it went pretty well. Actually, when they first had us come in there, they asked us to introduce ourselves and why we are taking the test. And so I said, yeah, my name is Michelle, and I've lived in Germany for the past 15 years, and I am trying to become a German citizen, and I need to have it on paper that I can speak German. And as soon as I said that, I saw the 2 testers looking like, okay, like that. And the speed that I speak with and the vocabulary that I have and the fact that I don't mess up my grammar that often shows them, yeah, my level is already higher than that. Like you can kind of tell just from the very beginning. So, but yeah. So when I was speaking, I felt much more comfortable, and I was just able to express myself and what my thoughts were on the topic. But I have to admit that I did sneak a few like English phrases in there because they are used in German. I have heard them at work. I've heard them with friends. For example, they'll say the words nice to have, because that is a nice English phrase and it has a different meaning and it doesn't translate very well. Like, I could try and translate it, but I just didn't feel the need because people say nice to have. And so I said that during the test, and I think I probably shouldn't have, but I don't think it will affect my score. So I have not gotten my results back. I will get them back in 4 weeks, according to Goethe Institute. Let's see how long it actually takes. The only major complaint that I have, I would say there are 2 things. 2 things I think would be nicer if they were different. Number 1 is that if it were more transparent on the website that it is an all-day thing. This is not a short-term test. This is not something that it will take you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at most. This is something that's going to take you all day. So go ahead and plan for it to take all day. And the other thing is that I wish they had at least offered some sort of something to keep us busy while we're waiting. Some people were waiting for hours for their oral exam. And like I had an almost 2-hour break, which was enough time to go and eat something and to relax a little bit. I felt like it's kind of like a lunch break, but it wasn't so long that I felt like, I'm going to die sitting here. There was one man there who had a 5-hour break until his next test. Like, that's ridiculous. At that point, you might as well go home and come back later. Like, it's just, like, I don't feel like that's very fair. So I have stopped complaining about my particular, like, schedule because I've realized that other people had it much, much worse than I did. So I'm glad that I had the one I did and I didn't have to wait too long. But at the same time, why is it that people have to wait that long? Like, do you really schedule it that badly? Um, and I told him I really hope that he gets in earlier, because they were taking people earlier if they were ready and somebody else wasn't there. So I don't know. I just think it's a little strange. The other one was that I was so bored in between taking tests that I basically talked to absolutely everybody there. At least a couple of sentences, asked them where they're from or something. Um, and I actually had one or two who were super annoyed with me. And the reason was because my German level is so obviously above B1 that they're like, what in the world are you doing here? Why are you taking a B1 test? Like, I had two people being like, how dare you? And I had to say at the end, dude, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. It's not like you're not going to pass because there's too many people who are above the level. No, the question is, have you reached that level? And I want to have on paper that I have reached that level. That's all. It shouldn't bother anybody. Just saying. Most people did not have a problem with it, but some people definitely were annoyed by it. Two people in particular. The rest of the people were okay. But it was just very funny. But I kind of feel like I made a lot of new friends. and it was so interesting to meet some people who were so talented, Like, for example, I met this young man who was from the Ukraine, and his German was amazing. Really, really good. I actually, from his accent, I thought he was German at first, and it wasn't until he spoke a little longer that I'm like, oh yeah, now I hear it. Yeah, there is a slight accent, but it's very, very light. And as we were talking, he revealed he's only been in Germany for a year and a half. A year and a half, and his accent is amazing, and his German is a very high level. Like, I didn't learn it that fast. Geez, So just getting to know some people who were very, very like linguistically talented. Also, some of the reasons why people wanted the test was very fascinating to hear. Like that some of them were like me and they were trying to get citizenship. Other people were wanting to apply for an apprenticeship. Some people wanted to go to the university. Some people wanted to qualify for the next test that they couldn't take until they had B1. And it was just really interesting to hear everybody's reasons. Anyway, it was a very interesting day. It was, however, extremely exhausting. By the end of the day, I was absolutely done with life. I just needed to sleep for like a year. And my level, it wasn't the German that was difficult, that made it so difficult, that made it so tiring. It was because it took so long and there was just so little to do in between. It was kind of like when you go on a long road trip and you're so tired at the end, you didn't do anything physical. Why should you be so tired? But you are. And it felt kind of like that when I took this test. So it is an all-day thing. Plan for it taking all day. And you will probably either start your main block at 8:30 in the morning or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So whichever one it works out to be for you. Anyways, I hope that clears up some things about the test. It was a little bit annoying. I am not at all concerned about the results because my level is clearly higher than that. I think I might stumble a little bit if I had a really high level test, but not a B1. That was easy. Anyways, I hope that is helpful for you as well if you are going to take the test. Write me down below if you are going to take the test, why you're taking the test, and what you're going to use the certificate for. So anyways, I thought you might enjoy hearing about that, and I hope to see you in the next vlog.